Hello, and welcome to the Spooky Chris podcast. I am the aforementioned Spooky Chris, and this is my little micro podcast of joy. It's bringing you rays of sunshine and punches to the groin every once in a while. My name is Chris Ringler. I am actually, instead of my usual quickie introduction, I figured, in case anyone out there hears this that doesn't know me, I figured I'd give you a little rundown in a longer form, short rundown of kind of who I am. So, as I say, my name is Chris Ringler. I am an author, and I forget exactly how many books. It's around 20-ish books, and it's hard because I have 4 done kind of waiting to kind of see the light of day. One of them hopefully coming late April, I hope. We'll see. I need to find time to edit it, really. So it's around 20 books. I write generally horror. That's where my heart's always been. My mom got me into horror, I think, and I've always just loved it. I love the aspect of storytelling and world building that you get in horror. The power of kind of nightmare making. I love that you can kind of tackle any issue, say anything really, in the genre, and have it have impact. Even if there's a killer on the loose or a monster on the loose or whatever, you can say things like, big important things. I've always loved how horror tackles bigger issues than a lot of genres do by their nature. And it's interesting because horror is considered kind of a popcorn genre, and people go to horror movies, obviously, because you'll look at box office receipts on movies like It and stuff. It's like people are going, obviously, but folks don't want to admit to it. Sometimes it's weird. It's just like the people that are like, I never watch TV. I would never. But do you consider a movie you watch on the TV or TV programs, or I don't know. It's always weird. But that's kind of how people do. Is where we selectively reveal ourselves, and I guess I get it, because we've become humans are just such a judgmental race, that I get it, because we're always kind of side-eyeing everybody, like, oh well, you like that, or oh, how dare you, But I always have loved horror. In the past few years, I started to branch out more. It's funny because by nature I am a short story writer. I just enjoy that process. I enjoy writing them. I enjoy what they are, because they're kind of like they kind of come like a joke. Setup, punchline, and it's not as much of world building, but the fun of it is that you can give glimpses of bigger things, and I love that stuff. I love short stories. I cheated and wrote novels in a roundabout way, in that they were novels of short stories. They were collections of stories that were interconnected that kind of formed a novel, but they weren't set out to be novels. My first proper novel was A Shadow Over Ever, which is a ridiculous and weird book about and I've talked about it on podcasts before, a man named Pete Anders who doesn't believe in anything and just wants to be left alone, but who gets dragged into a conflict in heaven, essentially. It's a war between the first children of Eden and the power structure of heaven, and it's got zombies and hillbillies and all manner of ridiculousness, and homages to things I love, and I just I love that book just for all the things it represents. I wrote this first story back in the mid '90s, so it took a while to get its way out to people. But I love that thing. I've written since other novels. I just released one, a sequel to my book Roadkill, called Road Killers, and they're part of a weird kind of a sort of a trilogy, but they kind of tell their own story. It's a story of a father, and the first book is about a father, the second book's about a son, or the first book's about the son, the second book's about the father, and to kind of get the coda on all of it, you kind of got to dive into another book called In Roots of Ash that I released, which is a collection, but all three stories are about a fictional town. That's again like one of the fun things I like about writing is that world building. Is I have like fictional towns, which I mean, it's nothing new. King does it. Lovecraft did it. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of his name. There's several writers that have done that, and I can't. Faulkner did it. It's a thing. It's obviously. And it's cool because these are things that are not like inherently connected. It's not like it's all one part of one series, so they would inherently be connected. But it's that they are places that exist in your kind of mindscape, and all of this stuff just happens all over the place. And I dig on that. I didn't think I'd ever want to write novels. I just, like I say, I prefer short stories, and writing a novel is awfully daunting. But I do like you have more room to breathe. You have more you can get deeper into the characters and into the plot, and you can pull out more strings for subplots and just weirdness. I like all of that. I think it's just, it's just another fun form to kind of do this in. I mean, I'm a guy who just likes to tell stories, so however it needs to be told, I'm down for it. But most of my releases are short story collections, except I have a handful of novels. One of my newer ones, it's a short novel. It's called Tattered Tents and Whispered Wishes, which is about a traveling fair, and I adore that book, and I'm bummed out that with everything going on, I haven't been able to do shows, so people haven't really gotten a chance to kind of discover it. But I just love it. It's such a weird little book, and it's different than kind of everything else I have out. It's kind of its own little unique thing. But a few years ago, back in the day, like in the early thousands, I came up with these silly little creatures called bumble kitties, and the idea was that they were kitties, but they had bumblebee wings, and they were kind of smaller. And with bumble kitties came meep sheep, and meep sheep were kind of similarly shaped, and had similar kind of wings. And I can't remember. I've changed what kind of wings everybody has, because it's like, should everybody have bumblebee wings? I don't know. But from these came a world, and I had a friend. I have a friend, but like that kind of was the inspiration for the main character that I used in the Meep Sheep book. And I put one book out, and was able to kind of talk about one friend and the woman I now married, and another friend who's gone, and just kind of have all of these people that I cared about in here, and just tell this fun fantasy, this dark fantasy that's kind of, I would describe it as Grimm's fairy tales without the Grimm. And so I did it, and I loved it. And I started a Tumblr when Tumblr was starting to get going, and I figured, oh hey, I'll write occasional stories in this world from time to time, just as a hoot. And I did a few, and I started thinking, like, this actually is kind of like a book. So I started to collect them and write more, and what I did is I told kind of the side stories of this little world, and I ended it with a sequel story. Well, now that I'd done that, I was like, well, I feel like I have to kind of finish the tale. I mean, to some degree, stories never end and blah, blah, blah. But, I wanted to finish what I had to say. So I wrote one last one. And the books, I like that the books kind of age up as they go along. Like the last one is the darkest of the three. It's a book about war. But I love it. I love that series because I hadn't written fantasy stuff. And they're dark, but there's nothing offensive to them, so families could read them, and I loved that. A few years ago, I got inspired to start writing children's books. Because I grew up and I loved to read since I was a kid, and I always have loved to read. I was a kid that always kind of read and loved reading, and I remember fondly being a little kid and reading, and they're out there, these kind of books I wrote sort of-ish. Everything's out there, I guess. But, I wanted to write books kind of about kids into monsters and dealing with bigger issues, and that's what I did, is I tried to kind of write these books about kids that are different, and going through some pretty heavy issues. One of them, my book, Danny Frankenstein, is about a boy trying to come to terms with the fact that his mom has died. My book, Little O in the Storms, is about a little girl who's teased and has to overcome that. My book, Little Sue and the Monster, is about a girl whose parents have divorced and who now has to deal with the fact that her mother treats her differently since the divorce. So she becomes kind of a quote-unquote monster, which a lot of adults do. And I've written another one it's a tribute to my late mother-in-law, which I hope will come out sooner than later, which again, because I did one for her and I did one for my mom, with the idea that these are, these are my tributes to them, but I'm also trying to tell kind of a story that encapsulates who I thought they were. My mom's book, Marilyn and the Werewolf, is about a young girl and her dog, who in the middle of summer, they think they've happened upon a werewolf, and it's just a kind of fun, silly story. The story I wrote for my mother-in-law is kind of about bullying again. So with the kids' books, and I like to write them. I try to write something that's true to me, and actually says something and isn't, so it's not little kids, it's kind of, middle school kids, and I kind of dig that. And this last year, I kind of took a challenge and wrote a mystery. It's a longer story than that, but I'm not really at a place to kind of say, I guess. I don't know. Someone asked me if I knew anyone that wrote mysteries. I said no, and I kind of thought, I was like, well, I've never written one. So I don't know if I can. And these kind of things, and I'm notorious for always turning down opportunities. I always am pass them off or pass them by. And this is a rare one where I'm like, I got nothing to lose. I'm going to try it. So I wrote a mystery, and it's pretty fun. So we'll see. It's supposed to come out sometime through someone that's not me, which is great. So I'm excited if that should come to pass, because that is, it could, it's fun for me. And I was asked to plot out kind of more, so I plotted out the idea for a sequel. So we'll see. But yeah, like I love to write. I've been writing since 1990. Well, I've been publishing since 1999. I've been writing since the mid 1990s. It's just the easiest way for me to get my thoughts out and my kind of vent my virtual spleen, kind of get the poison out of my head. In the last few years, I've kind of discovered an enjoyment in filmmaking. I've made 2 shorts now. And I wrote a script for a short film that's kind of still filming. I've shot a couple of micro shorts, and I have plans for a third. It's just whenever COVID gets around to being over, I guess. But I like it. I mean, I enjoy editing. The process of it all is kind of fun. It's weird. It's a different art. It's totally out of my wheelhouse, which isn't a bad thing. It's good to be challenged. It's super scary. I like it though. I haven't painted in years, but I took up, painting just again, kind of like I used to do art as a kid, and someone kind of made me fall out of love with it. So I've tried to kind of get back into it and into love with it, and I do like it. And I try to do art when I can, when I think about it. It takes more effort than the writing. It's hard for me to visualize this stuff the older I've gotten, because it's just not a muscle I use. I love to take photography. Again, I'm very visual in that sense, and I love photography. Say there's professionals, and then there's really good semis, and then there's casually, accidentally okay unprofessionals or amateurs. That's me. I once in a while take some pretty good shots. I have a good eye, but I'm not at all. Especially because we know, my wife and I, some like super duper talented photographers and stuff. So I'm not like that. And most of my stuff is on a camera phone, which people throw shade at. But I mean, let's face it, the camera on them are pretty high end nowadays. You just can't do as much per se, which I guess you can. I just don't fool with it like some of the settings. You can't quite do as much and kind of control the smaller aspects like you can a DSLR or something like that. I don't seem to have a musical bone in my body, but I have gotten myself some instruments lately, so the next film I do, I'm going to try to score completely on my own. We'll see. I have ideas, so we'll see. It's an art form I never really fooled with, but it won't hurt for me to fool with it. So I'm excited. I'm excited to try that out, to see what I see. And I on the bigger scale of things, like I have, for the past several years, I have been kind of overseeing an arts group. It's a bunch of friends, and again, like all the stuff I've talked about in other blogs and in other podcasts. So all of this may sound like, oh, I've heard all this, which bless your heart, go buy a book. But so none of this is new. But yeah, like several years ago, I had a little extra dough. I could have done an out of town kind of art, book show convention thingy, or I could have tried to do a show around where I live, and I figured I'll try my hand at a show. And we have been doing it for 10 years, and we have put conventions on, and music shows, and art shows, and writing shows, and it's been incredible, and it's been incredible to share this with friends, and I never would have been able to do this without them, without their support, without their kind of friends helping. So it's awesome. It's awesome to be able to do that. More than anything, I consider kind of, I've been blessed in many ways with the ability to do a lot of what I've done, because you have to have you have to have the drive, and I for sure have the drive. I absolutely have that. But you also have to have, partners and friends and supporters and people that believe in you. And I have been very blessed to have all of those. Like I say, you can't do one reason I write is because I want to do it on my own. I want to kind of follow my path, my rule. I want to kind of do my thing and tell my stories. But there's also something to be said about the art of collaboration, and that has been something I've learned as I've gotten older, how special that is, and how rewarding it is, and how much other people bring to the table. And so you learn that you can't always do everything by yourself, everything you want to do. And that's one of those cool things. I mean, shucks, the music I have in my movies, I made with a friend. I asked a friend, hey, do you want to do music for my movies? So he brought over these homemade instruments, like the craziest things. And that's what's crazy is this, like, he's like a mad genius. And he made kind of instruments out of other instruments and just like the craziest stuff. And he was more along the lines of, hey, why don't we make the music? So I got to actually be a part of making the music for my movies, and it's just absolutely incredible. It's an incredible experience. It's super weird, super fun, and it was great to be able to do that. And again, I wouldn't have been able to do that without, this is a guy that I have known since he was 10, something like that, because I dated his sister when, holy cow, 21 years ago. So it's weird how that works. And that's one of those things that I think people neglect and forget and don't nurture in their lives enough is the connections we have and we make. The people that we meet along the way that we can have these kind of relationships with and get to know one another and discover that together you can kind of make amazing stuff. And I think a lot of people neglect that, and they're so caught up in their shtick and their vision that they won't work with other people. And if you're willing to work with other people, you're gonna see kind of your own vision open. And I've been really blessed, like I say, to be able to do that. But that's me. All told is this rando day worker dude that writes and does arty stuff. You can always find my books on Amazon. Except for my first book, you got to buy from me. You can find my movies on YouTube now. Just look up Chris Ringler, and both of my short films are up there. And my micro shorts. You can find stories for free on my blog at spookychris.com. As well as, just regular blogs, and I'll review movies once in a while. More than anything, I just thank you for listening and for giving me a spin and for checking my stuff out. If you like what you hear, like my other podcasts are maybe more interesting, because I'm not necessarily the most interesting cat around, but it's always good to let people know who you are. I hope to return to the convention circuit someday. We'll see. Once COVID goes away, I can start taking a look at things, and maybe when my daughter's a little older, I can start looking at things again. But hopefully you check out some of my books or my short films or my blog, and hopefully I, in some small way, inspire you, because one of the things I've found too is that when I have writer's block, I just doodle. I word doodle. I come up with weird ideas. You don't have to even come up with deeper ideas than this, like a man goes into a house. Cool, that's it. Come back to it later. What is the house? Why is he at the house? Who is the man? Like, what is the history of the house? Like, there's all kinds of stuff you can get into from there. If you have the same thing with any kind of block, like with art, just doodle. Draw something dumb. Draw something silly or dirty if you're having trouble with art. I think we get caught up in the moment and kind of lose ourselves in the kind of the web of it and don't pull back and see the bigger picture. I never had an interest in making films. I made films as a kid when I was 18. Me and my friends made improv movies. But I have friends that make movies, and we talked and stuff, and I figured, well, I'll try it out. And I still don't know that I'm any good at it, but it's another way to tell stories, and that's what I cared about. So it's another thing to try. And I know I'm going to get better with each one I make because I'm learning on each one, and that's the kind of thing too, is to keep doing it. And shucks, that's why they say to practice an instrument all the time, is because you learn. You can't just pick it up and know it. So that's the way with all art. So hopefully in some way I've inspired you to do something or to pursue something, because again, I am living proof that just kind of stumbling forward you can stumble into your dreams, and that's not a bad thing at all. So friend, I wish you well. Have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. You can find my stuff at spookychris.com. Search the Amazon, search YouTube for Chris Ringler. I'll talk to you later.